This is a meeting of the Mastermind Demand Your Share, and I want to welcome everybody here today. We are getting close to Christmas, so everybody's going to get excited here pretty soon about, seeing Santa Claus and all that stuff. But anyway, what we're going to talk about today is the SendToShare model, or the SendToShare strategy. And if you remember from the previous presentations, the SendToShare strategy is a strategy that combines both the 5-step activity and control model with the send out cards campaigns to be able to more effectively convert prospects into customers from networking events. For example, I was at a networking event just the other morning put on by One Southern Indiana downtown. It's called Next Level Networking. I do not pick up cards from people that I already know I already have cards from, okay? I got 35 cards at that networking events. All right, now I can already tell you what can happen on that if I follow up with people with this system. I will make 3 sales within 3 weeks and 3 more sales within another 30-day cycle, or 40-day cycle maybe, okay? It's not bad, right? You know what I mean? Now, again, not everybody makes the same type of sale, but for my business, that's a good ratio, and that's easy, because when you think about it, how much time do you really have involved and how much expense do you have involved in that? Well, first of all, from the time standpoint, I was at the meeting for a couple hours, and it was raining, so I drove around the block a couple extra minutes to try to find a good parking space. And then, when my follow-up calls, you spend less than 5 minutes per call. And it cost me maybe $1 to send out the card. And then on the ones I don't get appointments with, then I'll send 3 more cards. So then you make a decision: do you want to invest $3 more in that person? So it's just an awesome system, and it worked for anybody in any business. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go back and we're going to review the other 2 presentations. And then we're going to end up with how do we go about designing the actual campaigns. So we're going to go back, just a short review, kind of an overview of the 5-step activity control model. And does anybody remember the 3 P's on the 5-step activity control model? What are the 3 P's? What's the purpose of the 5-step activity control model? Anybody remember? Okay.
To control your environment.
Right. Are we trying to control other people?
No.
No, we're not trying to control other people. So we want to take them through the process of whatever it is that we would like for them to do. And it's not necessarily always sales, marketing. It can be in all types of relationships. Take them through the process in the most efficient manner possible, controlling our environment while we're not trying to control other people's environment. Okay, so the second P would be the process. What process is it that we assume happens in relationships of any type when we're trying to create activity or actions?
Trust.
The mental process I'm talking about here. Okay, it's the basis of the 5-step activity control model. The process is that we assume that they must go through a 5-step process mentally in order to make a decision and take action. And obviously the 5th step of that process is action. And the 3rd step is actually information. So let's go back now to the 3rd P. What is the problem with us naturally implementing the process? Why don't we normally do it properly? Because most people don't do it properly.
It's against our nature.
It's against our nature. So in order to do the process right, we must resist human nature and develop new habits. And those habits are old and deep-seated, so we have to. But once you do it, all of a sudden you have total control of your own environment, and it's absolutely wonderful. I always say it can change your life, and it can change your life. So here's what happens with most people, is they start in the middle of the process, giving too much information too soon. They get a no decision rather than a no or a yes decision. They get a no decision because they've short-circuited the brain, and then the people are confused, they can't make a decision, and then we blame it on them, and then we get disgusted. So what we need to do is make sure we know that it's a yes or a no, and we start doing what first? Rather than giving information, we start doing what? Rather than telling, we do what? We ask. And what are we doing when we ask? We're identifying needs and desires, and we're relating those needs and desires back to our desired action. And what are the two rules of those asking those questions? The two rules?
2 is 1.
Okay.
Ask 2, answer 2.
Yeah. Okay. First, let's go to the first rule first. So I always talk about less is equal to more. So in other words, less information is always better than more information. And so what you want to do is always give less information than is anticipated. And then rule number 2, Don, would be never answer 2 questions in a row without asking one unless you want to give up your control. Now, you don't always have to stay in control, because you see what's nice is if you know you can always get it back, that's okay. But it's normally not a good idea to do that especially if you're in a sales situation. And it always depends upon how long your cycle is. So, 2 rules. It's real simple, and if you learn those 2 rules and how to implement those 2 rules, it can change your life. All right, so what we want to do is that by asking questions, identifying needs and desires, and relating those back to the desired action we want them to do, then we start actually creating curiosity, which is the first step of this mental process. So in other words, that person has to be a little bit curious about what you want them to do before you can start divulging too much information. And then by additional questioning, relating, giving little bits of information, questioning, and swapping, so forth, then you're able to cultivate this desire or this curiosity into true desire of interest or interest. So that now, when they are now genuinely interested, now they can accept more information. And in a sales process, traditionally, we would kind of relate that more to the presentation, but most people start right off on that and give way too much too soon, right? So how much information do you give at the presentation?
Less than is expected.
Less than expected, and only enough in tidbits, only enough to raise their level of belief, which is the 4th step in this process. Raise their level of belief enough that they'll take action. And they'll never do that until they believe that whatever you're asking them to do will solve their desires and needs. Okay? It's real simple process, isn't it? The only problem is that 85% of even some of salespeople out there who are supposedly trained do it wrong on a consistent basis. And all you have to do is start looking around you, and you'll notice it day in and day out all the time, where people are giving way too much information too quick, so they short-circuit the process, thereby they don't make the sale, or they don't get whatever it is they wanted, and then they get disgusted. So anyway, that's kind of 5-step program in a nutshell, a very quick overview. Anybody have any questions about that before we go on to the second part? Okay. So the second part now is we're going to take that model, what we've learned from that model, and we're going to go to networking functions to cultivate prospects and learn how to more effectively turn those prospects into customers. So let's real briefly talk about the different types of networking meetings. And I'm not going to say too much about that, except there's tons of them everywhere. All you have to do is look around, and you can go on my website at georgesims.com. And I'm keeping now a calendar of all the networking events around Louisville that I know, and I'll be expanding that as I go along. So just go on there and look under events, and you'll see all the different networking events around town. It's not necessary to join an organization right off. Long term, it's a good idea later on, but I would visit every networking event around before I ever join one for at least 2 or 3 times. And then the other issue is that you always want to make them pursue you to join, and join the ones that pursue you rather than just volunteering.